ballpoint pen, perhaps the most commonly used writing tool in the modern world, can be seen everywhere in our day-to-day life. They are used at schools, homes, and offices. However, have you ever wondered how does a ballpoint pen work? Before we get to explore the mystery, pause for a while and take a guess. What are the most important parts in a ballpoint pen? There is a reason for this style of pen to have the name ballpoint. Its writing tip is actually a tiny ball, which can be made of a steel, tungsten carbide, or brass. Though they vary in shapes, sizes, and materials, a ballpoint pen typically has 4 parts. First, the outer tube. It provides you the place to hold your pen. Second, the ink reservoir, usually a long, narrow tube to hold the ink. Third, a socket that separates between the ink reservoir and the paper. Finally, and the most important part, a bowl at the tip of the pen, which is used both as a continuous cap that keeps the ink from drying and a mechanism for getting the ink onto the paper. So now you know the parts of a ballpoint pen, and you definitely know how to write with it. However, do you know the mechanism behind it? Let's take a guess. Located in between the ink reservoir and the paper, the tiny bowl is held in the socket, and the back of the bowl is exposed to the ink so it can pick up ink from the reservoir. The bowl fits into the socket with just enough space to move freely. While it's in tight, it has enough room to roll around as you write. When you hold a ballpoint pen in your hand and begin to write, the ball rolls around the socket. As the pen moves across the paper, the ball turns and gravity forces the ink down to the reservoir and onto the bowl. Due to adhesive force between the bowl and the ink gets stick to the surface of the bowl and the bowl of the pen roll. Then the ink will enter through that narrow clearance due to gravity to the pressurized point on paper, since the adhesive force between the ink with paper is higher than with the bowl. It's this rolling mechanism that allows the ink to flow onto the top of the bowl and roll onto the paper you're writing on. One way to understand it clearly is to look at the bowl of a roll-on antiperspirant, which uses the same technology at a much larger scale. The typical container of a roll-on has the same problem as the ballpoint pen does. It wants to keep air out of the liquid and antiperspirant, while at the same time making it easy to apply. At this scale, it is easy to see how the mechanism works. A ballpoint pen works exactly the same way. It sounds easy and simple, but to produce a ballpoint pen which writes perfectly is truly challenging. One of the major challenges is that the bowl needs to move free while writing, which means the space between the bowl and the socket needs to be perfect. Too tight and the pen is difficult to be moved on paper. Too loose and the ink leaks out. As you finish watching this video, I'd like you to stop for a second to appreciate how beautiful the mechanism behind a ballpoint pen is. The invention of it changes the way people write for thousands of years, and it still holds an irreplaceable place in the modern world. Now pick up a ballpoint pen and start writing something. I'm sure now you must have a different feeling about this tiny little thing in your hand.